The Thunderbolts review. Let's dive... Oh, what? They did what? The New Avengers review. Let's dive in. The Thunderbolts, or the New Avengers, whatever you want to call it, it embodies a lot of what made Phase 1 of the MCU so special without falling into some of the same tropes that held Phase 1 and the rest of the MCU back. It functions on its own as a wonderful standalone story, and all of the moments of that interconnected universe leaking into the film feels a lot more like the setting, the world that the story takes place in, rather than that interconnectedness clogging up the plot itself and taking over the story. This trip to the theater was a treat in that I got to experience not only a fun action movie and a return to form for the MCU, but a quality, character-driven story. Our story starts out with Florence Pugh's Yelena going through her day-to-day as a shadow ops agent for the CIA, or more specifically, for Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Val. She's on a mission in Malaysia to destroy some evidence, and she is very lackadaisically going through the motions of what is to her just another day at the office, but to us, it's this bombastic spy mission that could honestly be the final act of a Mission Impossible movie. The opening scene really sets the tone on a few different levels. One, the stunts are done mostly practically, which not only looks great, but also lets us know early on that this is not your run-of-the-mill Marvel schlock, where it feels like the whole movie takes place in one room with different green screen backgrounds. This scene and the rest of this movie really feels alive, and the space it exists in feels real, and the depth feels real and there. It feels like a whole world, a honest film. 2, Yelena is trying to move forward from her own traumatic past, as most of our main cast here is, and she's doing it by literally destroying evidence of Val's past mistakes and involvement with the shady company OXE Group. Really, the recurring theme of this whole movie is confronting your past and dealing with trauma. Our primary protagonist and antagonist here make the thematic mistakes of trying to shirk their pasts, and the narrative punishes them both in different ways. Moving on from the opening scene, we drop into Val's impeachment hearing, and we see her doing her very best Tony Stark congressional scene impression from Iron Man 2. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, while being very enjoyable to watch, is kind of the weak link in this movie. Not to say that she's putting in a bad performance, because she very much is not, but it just feels like she's doing her best Selena Meyer Veep character, but a little more competent. I loved Veep, so that wasn't a big issue, but it did take me out of the immersion a touch. While it's no fatal flaw for the movie, she does seem to be the one actor here who is recycling a performance and doing it for that Marvel paycheck. This is also where we are introduced to Congressman Bucky, who is very uncomfortable in this professional, above-the-board setting of Congress. He's not given much to do early on, though. After her mission in Malaysia, Yelena goes to visit Alexei, played by David Harbour, who is doing a great job here. His accent doesn't seem to really slip at any point, nor does Pugh's, and I was impressed with the way Alexei's character is handled in the story. He's this big, bombastic presence that, of all of our Thunderbolts, is clearly meant to be our comedic relief, but he's far from being a shallow crutch for the hacky MCU jokes we've become accustomed to hearing in these comic book movies. He puts on a brave face for his daughter when they first meet again, when she asks how's he been doing, but the second she opens up to him about possibly wanting to quit her position working as an agent for Val, that mask drops right away, and we see that, of course, he's not doing well. His place is trashed. He even kind of half-jokingly demands that she give him Val's phone number so he can work for her. Which, funny enough, he does end up working for her later on, which is a quick show for a driver. Alexei, he's desperate for a mission, a meaning, a purpose, for something. And while this really is Yelena's movie, he's the connective tissue of our team before it's even formed. The editing is quite clever and really smooth in this. We get a transition from a call with Val giving a mission to Yelena to her actually on the mission. It reminded me a lot of Ocean's 11 in the best way. This mission is where we meet the rest of our team in a thunderous action sequence. Each individual sent into a vault under the guise of hunting the next, and man, the fight choreography is so crisp. Played by Wyatt Russell, Walker's brute strength is on display as having that super serum in full effect. He fights like a bull. The rest of our cast, while having a distinct style, are much more technique focused. Taskmaster being the exception here. She really is just doing what Taskmaster does best and is copying John's style, but without that super soldier strength, she gets knocked aside pretty quickly. Ghost's powers are integrated so cleanly into the fight, it really was a blast to watch. Throughout the chaotic brawl that ensues, each person is still going after their target while navigating this big bungle of a group fight. At one point in this fight, Yelena tries to sling a knife at Ghost, who phases, catches it, slings it at Taskmaster. Taskmaster deflects it at Walker, and it's all this one fluid motion that happens in the blink of an eye. You could almost miss it, but it's so clean. And it leads to Bob, played by Lewis Pullman, getting released. Our fight ends with a boom of a gunshot where Taskmaster gets blasted by Ghost, killing her. You know, I knew someone would die in this going into the movie, since in the comics, the Thunderbolts are basically Marvel's answer to the Suicide Squad. But boy, did they check that box early. Our group here bands together pretty quickly once they realized they were all given the same promise by Val and are trapped. The chemistry is pretty instant. Yelena, Bob, and Walker primarily. Walker being the arrogant douchebag of the group whose actions betray the good quality of his character more than his shitty words. Yelena and Bob's instant connection plays so well though. They share a moment where he sees her past, but beyond just that, they seem to click. He's in major need of someone to look out for him, and she is in major need of someone to connect with and finds Bob. The affection there feels real from the jump, but not at all forced. And this really is carried by Pullman and Pugh's performances. They're both putting on a show here. With this many characters, it's hard to give everyone equal shine. So Ghost, or Ava, quickly takes a backseat, but the way it's handled works well. Twice, she's sent out ahead of our team, since her powers can let her go places the rest of the squad can't. And it leaves the other three with that screen time to bond. But she's not ignored. We get a bit of her tragic backstory as a snarky jab at Walker, which turns into this funny little trauma competition. One thing from this conversation that stood out to me is, even while trying to one-up each other's trauma, it leads to some connections amongst the team, with Walker even comforting Yelena in his own dickish way. Also, at one point, we see Walker jump, and he must have some kind of improved version of that super soldier serum, because when he jumps, it's like an Avengers 1 Hulk jump. He is in the air for so long. One of this movie's biggest constraints is time. There's only so much screen time to go around, and the story itself only takes place over about a day. So we have a lot of emotional and plot heavy lifting to do in a short amount of time. I was tempted to call that this film's biggest flaw, but I don't really think I can call it a flaw. Bucky, like Ava, doesn't get that same emotional development as the rest of our Thunderbolts, but the both of them really shine in our action sequences so they don't feel ignored. In the chase scene, Bucky is just oozing cool. It's a great intro for him, or a great intro for the Winter Soldier. Our main team here is 6 people, and 4 of them, Bob, Walker, Yelena, and Alexei, go through real, honest-to-God, hand-to-God, emotional and character development, and it doesn't feel like it's happening just for the plot's sake. It feels natural and earned. Yelena stops pushing her pain down and deals with it out in the open in an honest and cathartic way by helping the team, finding some community in her fellow Shadow Ops misfits, and through a cathartic conversation with Alexei. Alexei gets the chance to finally be there for his daughter emotionally, and he pulls our whole team, his new family, together as hard as he can. Bob goes on a whole emotional roller coaster of hating himself, wanting to just stay in that vault and rot, to getting way too high on his own Sentry supply, fueled by Val, back to hating himself, but by the end, finding the strength to give himself some grace and forgiveness through the friendship and support of our Thunderbolts. Walker begins our story as an unlikable asshole who thinks way too much of himself. We see, though, that this really is just him projecting his insecurity. In little moments throughout the film, we see him soften up bit by bit, indirectly comforting Yelena about her past, waiting for her nod to drive off after Bob's sacrifice, protecting Ghost in that chase scene, standing up for Alexei when Yelena is lashing out at him, hugging Bob in our climax, and even calling him Bobby the whole movie, but then switching to Bob once he finds out that Bob's abusive dad called him Bobby. A lot of his kindness and growth comes in these little acts. Our director, Jake Schreier, fits all of this into a tidy sub 2-hour movie, along with some of the best looking action sequences this side of Endgame. The final battle here is exceptional. Sentry's powers on full display are awe-inspiring, but the Void is a whole other ballgame. The way he just poofs people out of existence is chilling. It's clear there's no way we're going to physically beat him, but the way he is beaten here is cathartic in the best way possible. All in all, I had a great time with this movie. The Thunderbolts, the New Avengers, whatever it's called, I'm all in. It's a strong 8 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, go buy that ticket now, because this is an experience worth going to the theater for. Also, on a side note, we got a lot of actors from The Wire in this. Not really relevant, but man, I love The Wire.